Welcome to another coaching demonstration from the team at MRA. The tool we're showcasing today is the TGROW model.
Okay, good morning, Kimberly. How are you?
Good morning, Matt. Doing well, thank you.
Good. It's lovely to see you again.
Great to see you too.
So welcome to our next coaching session as part of your program of coaching with us at MRA. Really good opportunity before we kick into the content today, just to take a moment to recontract around our work and our time together. So I know previously we've contracted really comprehensively around lots of various elements, which were important to you and important to us in the coaching context. But just a couple of quick reminders around confidentiality and a reminder that coaching is about high support and high challenge. So to expect to receive that style of coaching from us today. Is there anything else that's important to you from your side? Anything that you'd like to raise as we begin the conversation together?
I think just remembering that sort of high support, high challenge bit. And if I balk a bit, maybe give me a second and kind of add the support in along with the challenge.
We're used to the coaching relationship, aren't we?
Yes.
Okay, good. Anything else?
No, that's it from me.
Okay, good. A couple of quick things from me. You'll see me taking a few notes. They're for my reference only, but you're very welcome to have a copy of those notes at any time during or after the call. Okay, so do feel free to take notes yourself if it's useful for you, but you're welcome to take a copy of mine at any time too. All right. Well, one of the things we do when we're in the coaching space is often giving the client feedback, and it's important that we understand as a coach how you like to receive feedback. So if I move into a feedback space with you, obviously I'll ask permission around that, but is there anything that's important to you in terms of how you like to receive feedback from a coach?
Yeah, so with feedback, I do like it to mean something. So showing examples of where that feedback is coming from. So very kind of, I saw this or I observed this, and that's why I'm giving you the feedback. I feel like if it's, fairness and is one of my key values. And so if I feel that it's unfair, I may balk at it a bit, but if you can back it up with evidence, I'm quite good at taking it.
Okay, good stuff. All right, brilliant. Well, let's just be really mindful around if we step into a feedback space, making sure that we evidence that feedback, making sure that we respond well to that fairness value that I know is so important to you in life, let alone in the work and in the coaching environment. Okay, good stuff. Just a quick check on sort of well-being as we enter into coaching today. How are we?
Yeah, doing okay. Had a good night's sleep, so that's a rarity. So yeah, feeling good.
Good to go then. Okay, superb. So we agreed previously that we would work through a framework in coaching today. That framework is something called TGROW. And it's nothing that you necessarily need to be super aware of. It's just a framework and a model that we use, but just making reference to it so you're aware of the sort of process and style of the coaching that we'll be using. Okay, it's a framework that's sitting in my head that I'll be just exploring as we go through the coaching and the questioning. Also, just a point of reference to anyone who might be watching this. This is a real coaching session. It's not prepared in any way. There might be some flaws and faults along the way, and it's all part of being a self-aware coach and learning as we go. So I'm going to hand over to you at this point, Kimberly. Be lovely for you just to share a little bit as we start around what's the subject matter, the topic for conversation today. Could you just give me some context and background, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've recently started taking on additional clients and am trying to balance my life a little bit differently. So I'm coming from a very structured environment. So my previous work experience was very structured, and I'm stepping more into an unstructured environment. And my whole reasoning behind the shift was in order to have more time with my kids, was in order to have more time to prioritize my health and my well-being, get more sleep, which I ticked last night, which is great. And also just to be able to figure out how I live this new life differently. So it's a very different, unstructured way of working and trying to find a way to put structure around it.
Superb. So let me just check that we're hearing you right. So the subject matter is predominantly around moving from structured to unstructured, remembering why we did the work that we did and made the choice that you made, which was to create greater balance, well-being, health, time with the family, sleep, etc. But the shift between structure and unstructure, that seems to be the subject matter that we're responding to. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, great. So we've got probably sort of about 15 minutes more, and we may not get all the way through your coaching experience. As we know, some of these coaching sessions might be much longer, maybe sort of up to a couple of hours. So let's just see how far we get in the conversation today. We might want to pick some further bits up. You might want to dive back in a bit more detail later. But talk to me about, in a sort of 15-minute time frame, where would you like to get to in terms of the outcomes of this coaching conversation?
I think just having the time and space to think about how I could do this better is really helpful. And kind of just taking those moments of what am I doing now that I may need to challenge myself on, and what are some good habits I may have and some bad habits I may have. So kind of just a bit of reflection on where I am now and kind of what I could do better.
Okay, great. So the outcome that we're looking for, the sort of the goal, is less necessarily around actions and next steps, but actually creating space and time for reflection and for thought.
And the next steps might come out of that.
Okay, let's go. Let's see where we get to. And obviously, just make sure that you're in control of the coaching experience all of the time. If you'd like to slow down, speed up, then feel free to give me feedback at any point in time, and we'll make sure we respond to that. Okay. Just a quick point of reference. Your MBTI profile, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator Profile, could you remind me, please?
Yes. So I am ENFP.
Okay, good. And are you aware of the strengths and challenges of an ENFP profile?
So I absolutely am, in terms of especially that P bit. And I think that's coming in here big time. And I need to pull some J out. And I was hoping that maybe someone with a J preference, which I know you have, Matt, might be able to help a bit.
Good stuff. Okay, so instantly we see the value of self-awareness and the psychometrics that you've already completed through your coaching. So let's not overly play on the P preference unless it's really useful for you, but we're very aware that that preference of yours, which is unique and strong in many ways, might be filtering into the conversation and the transitional shift that you're describing.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, great. So what's life like at the moment? What's your current world looking and feeling like? How is that P preference brilliant for you? How is it sometimes getting in the way for you? Talk to me about what life's like for you right now, and therefore why potentially you're bringing this conversation to coaching.
I'm laughing because I think the first word that comes to mind is chaotic. And it's not a bad chaotic. Again, with that P preference, I quite like that, and with my N preference as well, I quite like having a bit of chaos and a bit of unstructured life.
Yeah.
But what I'm recognizing is it's not helpful for everyone around me. And that's one of the things I've noticed is having structure for my children, especially, is really important. And having structure for the help we have. So we have after school help that comes to the house, and having structure for her is also really helpful. So I feel like one of the things I've done is I've gone from having three, you're going to laugh at this, 3 different diaries to having one. So that was really good. And we do have 2 because we still have the family diary that's a paper diary. But I shifted on to an electronic diary, and that's really helped, because that allows me to put everything in one place. But sometimes what I'm finding is, because I'm working with different people and organizations, they all have different ways of working. And so it's trying to amalgamate all of that into a system that works for me. And I think that is what I'm struggling with. I just realized that's probably what I'm struggling with first and foremost, is I'm working with different people and different organizations, each of which uses different tools. And how can I actually put them all onto one tool for myself?
Okay. So just being really clear that this is fundamentally about you achieving something for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
But we're also recognizing that has a ripple effect onto the sort of the relationships that you have around your children, home care, etc. after school.
100%.
Okay, and what are you sort of noticing about the challenge that's sitting with you in your head, even as you're talking it through today? What's sort of going through you? What are you noticing in yourself?
I'm noticing that if I can get this right, it's going to save me time. And one of the things that I want time with the kids. And so there's more of a benefit than just that kind of being more organized and feeling on top of things, but also I get that benefit of more time with the kids.
Mm. And right at the very start of the conversation, you made reference to the fact that you've made this career shift to have more balance. And one of those reasons was to have more time with the children. So if we can attend to this in a way in which works really well for you, Kimberly, that actually reinforces the benefit of the career transition move that you made in the first place.
It does. And the other thing is, I said chaotic at the beginning. And while I do enjoy having challenge and a bit of chaos, I actually quite like not feeling out of control. And so there's a fine line there for me in terms of when do you reach that level of feeling out of control where you have that heart rate that goes up where you're like, oh, am I going to miss that meeting, or was that today or was that tomorrow, or and I don't like that feeling. So I like to have that control with a bit of chaos.
Nice. Control with chaos. Superb. Just talk to me about what use the language there of fine line, which is really lovely language. Talk to me about the sort of tipping point between the joy of chaotic and the fine line that then flips into chaos and therefore appears a bit of a stress response for you. So talk to me a little bit more about the fine line.
Yeah. So when I live in a good amount of chaos, cool things happen. So when I feel like if it's overstructured, you're not giving room for something amazing to happen, unexpected, and jump in the car and go to the beach because it's a beautiful day and let's go see the sunset kind of a thing. If it's overstructured, the kids have to do their spelling. We have to have dinner at this time. We have to do that. That to me feels overstructured. So that is on one side of the line. The other side of the line is, oh my goodness, I totally forgot to prepare for blob. And I hate that feeling. So it's finding that that space where I can do the preparation I need to do. I can be organized in the way I need to be organized. I know where I need to be when I need to be there, but I still have that space for what I would call chaos.
Lovely. And have you got some experiences that you could share during this conversation about when you have found that fine line brilliantly, when it's worked really well for you, that enjoyable chaos, that feeling of energy, passion, and in the moment spontaneity, but also that experience of feeling in control and not having that lastminute.com feeling of, oh, have I missed something here? Have we got some examples of when that's worked really, really well for you, and maybe some of the disciplines you had in play that helped you in that space of fine line?
Yeah. So in a previous role I had, my entire role was to support a senior executive. So I was a chief of staff to the senior executive. And I had to be constantly looking forward for her and for me. And I was juggling 3 diaries. So I had her diary, I had my diary, and then I had the team's diary. And it was constantly thinking about that forward. And I will say for me, this was really restraining. So this was way too far right for me. I was way too organized and it caused me a lot of stress to be in that space. But what I found worked well was looking forward a week or a month and actually taking the time to just give myself even 10 minutes to say, this is what's coming up. And here's what I need to put in my diary now to prepare for that. And it doesn't take enough time away from me where I lose that spontaneity, that chaos, but it still gives me enough structure where I don't get that feeling.
Nice. We're starting to fall into some of these sort of options and choices that you're potentially describing. Can you just replay what you heard yourself just say that
Mm,
worked really well in
mm.
terms of a fine balance between chaotic and stress? What did you just say?
So I'm going to phrase this a bit differently. I need to start looking ahead more. And I need to sit down and give myself 30 minutes to look ahead a week and look ahead a month and make sure that I'm putting things into my diary properly. And I'm going to add a little bonus point on here, which is my emails. So a lot of times I find dealing with multiple emails, which was the same. I had her whole inbox, my whole inbox, the team's whole inbox. I've done this before. And maybe I've just had a penny dropping moment. Maybe the reason I'm having an issue with this is because it's bringing back that feeling
Mm,
of being very overwhelmed, because it was very overwhelming. And I was working until 3 a.m. to get it done. And it was hard.
mm,
And I think I might be balking at putting that in place again, because I keep thinking it's going to take that time away from kids. It's
mhm.
going to lose sleep. I'm going to lose my health again. I'm going to lose all those things by putting this organization in place. But it's not the organization. It's actually, I was overworked. And so
Okay.
I think I need to separate that in my head.
Yeah. Have you separated that in your head?
Realistically, no, I still feel very when I think about it.
Hmm. Just sitting with that for a second.
I think I can. I think I need to do it to separate it. I need to actually do it and then feel what that feels like and recognize in the doing that it's not the same thing.
Hmm. So there's two things at play here. Let's just double check that we don't lose both. So we've got one around. I think you started on 10 minutes and then it moved to 30 minutes, but maybe 30 minutes once a week, looking a week out and looking a month out. So we're always one step ahead in terms of the plan, knowing that we're only dealing with your calendar now, not multiple calendar frameworks. And at the same time, this sense of attention to email and the feelings that have come in the past of feeling, quote, overwhelmed. Okay. So just exploring some options for you around how to attend to the email element in a way in which for you brings joy and control and not overwhelm. Let's just take a moment thinking through choices and options. How would you really love to do it versus need to? How would you really love to take control of email in a way that works brilliantly for you and your preference, but doesn't build to a point of overwhelm? And we should also potentially be respectful of the fact that your behavior will impact on your clients and the other organizations you work for. So making sure that it works for the whole of the system that you're operating within. But let's come right back to you to start with. What are the options and choices, ways forward that you would love to explore?
The one thing that just came to mind there was I operated in an industry, and where I was working previously was very almost service oriented, in that you had to respond to emails immediately. And I think I need to have a shift around that, in that I could actually dedicate time in the day to focus on the emails. And when I say emails, anybody that has children in school will know you also get 800 emails from the school as well. And so I also need to bring that in, because that's another part of this whole issue, I would say, using the word issue, is the administration for my children as well.
Mm,
So I think that actually I'm recognizing is a stress that I might not be putting in this category, but I need to. And so while I'm organizing my time and my life and my emails, I think I need to dedicate time to making sure that I'm looking at those emails and the newsletters and the updates from the kids' school as well, And maybe I allocate that time in the evenings after the kids have gone to bed, because it's not really work. And then I can separate that out, but get it done.
Mm.
And I think I need to stop checking emails after 6. Just say I'm cutting it off at 6. And if I want to look at my personal emails after that, or the kids' emails, that's fine. But actually just putting a parameter around that, because no one needs me. It's not the same job. And I need to just, it's no one, the world is not going to collapse. The economy is not going to collapse from me not looking at emails after 6 p.m. And that was a possibility in my old job. So I think I need to just, Matt, that's huge in terms of, it's not that I'm not as important to my clients anymore, but they don't need me overnight. And so I can stop at 6. That's one thing I've learned. And then the second one is I need to put boundaries around when I'm spending the time on the email. So again, that 30 minutes, set a timer, put it on, allocate that time during the day, use my calendar that's working well for me, put that in the calendar on a daily basis, and then be willing to shift that around. Because that's again, my personality type. It doesn't have to be between 12 and 12:30. That can be any time during the day, and it needs to move. I'm not good. I wouldn't be good if it was the same time every day. So maybe thinking about different times during each day, and just setting aside that time. So yeah, I think that would be a big help.
Do you mind if I take a moment to share some feedback?
Please share some feedback.
And I'm very mindful of the fairness value and the need for evidence,
Thank you.
which will mean it's true. Something you just said a moment ago really, really stood out for me, which was a slight shift between potentially a transactional style of coaching, which was about discipline, rules, regulations, and then that shift to transformational coaching, which was, quote, it's not the same job. And how much time you've really given to yourself to pause, hear yourself say that, acknowledge it, and then reset yourself in terms of your ways of working in this new world with all of these disciplines of multiple clients and children, and school emails and domestic setups. To what extent have you taken time to stop and be really clear that, quote, it's not the same job?
I think how many seconds ago was that? About that amount of time. I think, Matt, that is so profound in terms of, and I think it's absolutely true. And you do this with any transition in any job, don't you? Is you bring what worked well for you before into that new space, and do you ever stop to question whether it's the right way to operate?
What I'm really loving about this conversation, Kimberly, is at the very start you said you really wanted time just to sort of talk and reflect and pause. It might create action, it might not. And I feel as though that we've had 15, 20 minutes of time, and just even in that reflective space, there's been a mindset shift in you, which will lead to multiple actions, I would have thought. Just so that we bring this this moment to a close, I feel as though we could keep going in this coaching space for a lot longer. And you've got a nice smile and a nice energy around you, so it feels the same. But just so we bring this coaching moment to a pause in a moment or two, as well as that mindset shift, that it's not the same job, what else are you taking away? What else do you want to be doing after today? Remember, coaching is about forward movement. So what else do you want to be doing after today in terms of choices, actions, way forward?
I think another thing that really came out of this session for me is that I have control over this and that I can make change. And it's just, I need to, again, set aside a bit of my P preference and pull out a bit of my J preference and put some parameters around it, but not to the detriment of the joy and the fun and all the benefits I get from it. So put structure there, but recognizing that actually my structure needs to be a bit unstructured as well. Structure
that is unstructured. That's amazing.
I love it.
From sort of the fine line of sort of chaos to stress, structure, unstructured, sort of balance,
Yeah.
how we create priority, but doing it through your lens and not through the lens of others. I'd also just like to play back, if it's okay with you, some of your stress appeared to come from the expectations of others. Multiple sets of diaries and emails from previous world about high expectation while also being a mum with a young family. And I just really hope you take a moment just to pause and re-energize yourself on your life. You just beautifully said, I'm in control. And the ability to be in control in this new world as we step forward.
Yeah, that's so helpful, Matt. Thank you.
What's sitting with you right now, just as we bring the conversation to a close? What's sitting with you right now?
I feel like when we started the conversation, I felt pressure that was in my chest, and I feel like that has been released. And I feel lighter. I feel a little bit emotional. I feel like I'm on the verge of tears a little bit because I feel the big shift. There's been a monumental shift. I feel quite empowered. I feel like I need to take some time and sit and reflect with this, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm not a terribly reflective person. So getting me into that space, actually, I want to reflect on this. And that's something I want to take some time with.
Right. Well, you know that the coaching continues for you. So if you'd like to bring that back and we can attend to it again, then we'll absolutely do so. So let's take a moment of pause as we bring the conversation to a close. I'm pleased that you found it as productive as you did. That shift of it's a new job felt like the moment. So I encourage you just to enjoy taking a moment of pause and reflection after today's conversation. But for now, that's the end of our coaching session today.
So much, Matt.
No worries. Thank you.
That concludes the coaching demonstration. If you'd like to learn more about professional coaching, please visit www.matthewradley.co.uk.